Hi everyone, this is Dale C. Washington of Greater Works, Prophetic Ministry, and YAHWEH. It is Sunday, May 24th of 2026. It is about 9:22 p.m. The title reads, No Worries, Be Happy. I'm going to be sharing two dreams that I received from the Lord in February of 2026, and both dreams are about Nancy Guthrie. At the time I received the dreams from the Lord, I didn't know what they were about. So I'm going to get into explaining a little bit about that in a few minutes, okay? I will also be speaking to you all about what the Lord has been communicating to me concerning this tragedy, all right? Out of respect, I want to begin by expressing my deepest condolences concerning this devastating, diabolical crime that was perpetrated against Miss Nancy Guthrie. I have prayed many times for the Lord's intervention in this, as I'm sure many others have also prayed. So my condolences go out to Miss Nancy Guthrie's family. So why am I speaking? Well, I've already told you, but why am I speaking on Nancy Guthrie? Because God, Yahweh, the Most High, has something to say. If he doesn't have anything to say, I don't have anything to say. So I'm here to share what the Lord gave me. I'm here to share that with his people. Okay, that is my assignment, and it's a very challenging assignment because I have quite a bit of information I want to share with you all. I'm going to start with telling you a little bit about the parables in Scripture. Okay, throughout the New Testament, Jesus would speak to the multitudes in parables. The disciples would come to Jesus and ask him, why did he speak to them in parables? Jesus would answer them, because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. There are other accounts where Jesus spoke to the multitudes in parables, and when he would send the multitude away, his disciples would come and ask him. They would come and ask him to explain the parable to them. So here are some of the places that you can reference these accounts. Matthew chapter 13, Mark chapter 4, and Luke chapter 8. I did not record the verses, okay, but those are the chapters. And that scripture connects to the title of this prophetic word and the prophetic dreams I'm going to share with you all. The title, No Worries, Be Happy. Okay. Although the title or the phrase, it is not a parable. All right. By definition, it is not a parable, but it still has a hidden meaning, which will be understood by those who have ears to hear. No worries, be happy. I also believe that the hidden meaning, because this title does have a hidden meaning, I believe the hidden meaning of this title will be understood within the tight circle of individuals who know the truth of what really happened to Miss Nancy Guthrie and why it happened. No worries, be happy. Why would anyone be happy about this? Do your research, and you might find out why Satan's angels are happy right now. Satan's angels are happy about this. Do your research, okay? No worries, be happy. The phrase means what it says, but I have the task of explaining what God means by this phrase, okay? I have to explain to you all what God Most High is using this title to say. God has chosen a very common phrase to speak a message through, but he does not mean it the way we've always understood it. I believe there's an old song that says, "Don't worry, be happy." I'm sure a lot of you all are familiar with that song, okay? Very similar to what I'm saying in this title, but don't confuse the two. It's not the same. So in keeping with the context of this message, the phrase "no worries, be happy" has taken on new and multiple meanings. All right. As I move forward in this message, it is very, very important that you hear what God is saying and hear what he is not saying. He that hath an ear to hear, let him hear. All right. First, here is what God is not saying in his use of this title. God is not saying to the Guthrie family to be happy. Okay? He is not saying that. I'm going to get into that definition in a minute. He's not saying to the Guthrie family to be happy. So let me make that crystal clear right now. God is also not saying to you, nor I, or to anyone else, that we should be happy about the brutal kidnapping of Miss Nancy Guthrie. So here's what the Lord is saying through the title, "No worries, be happy." God says the people have grown complacent. So let's look up that word. Let's define the word complacent. Marked by satisfaction with the status quo, especially when accompanied by unawareness of actual dangers or deficiencies, marked by complacency. It also means to be apathetic. Apathetic is also kind of like unconcerned, all right? So is the word complacent. It means you're unconcerned. Lack of initiative. A decrease in ambition or drive because things feel comfortable. Blindness to risk, ignoring warning signs or potential vulnerabilities because the status quo feels secure. Now I'm going to read this definition of complacent. A complacent person is very pleased with themselves or feels that they do not need to do anything about a situation, even though the situation may be uncertain or dangerous, okay? It means smug, self-satisfied, pleased with yourself, resting on your laurels, okay? Apathetic. Someone who has or shows little to no emotion, interest, motivation, or concern. Now, this is what God is saying about the state of the people. He says that they have grown complacent. And I'm not saying this because I'm saying it. I'm telling y'all this because God said so. He said that the people have grown complacent. He said that concerning this and other things that have happened in the past, that the people are apathetic, showing little or no emotion, no motivation, unconcerned, complacent. Okay? Another thing characteristic of apathetic is emotional detachment, feeling indifferent, unmoved, or unresponsive to external stimuli. It is a lack of action, not taking steps to change or engage with a situation, often resulting in passivity. No worries, be happy. I'm going to explain further. And this is not to say that every single individual is in this place, but the masses are. A multitude of people is in this state. Too many people have grown to a state of complacency, or else the Lord would not be sending this word. This complacency did not just start with what happened to Miss Nancy Guthrie. What about all the missing children? What about all the children that were separated from their parents? Okay. What about those cases? And there's still over 1,000 children unaccounted for that have not been reunited with their parents that came over here from other countries. Some people believe that happened largely during the Biden administration, and I'm not sure that that only happened during the Biden administration, though. Okay? So the enemy, the devil, roams around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour, seeking the most vulnerable of our society, seeking babies, children, the young, and now the elderly, an 84-year-old woman. And the people have grown complacent, saith the Lord. No worries, be happy. Complacent is also self-contentment. This self-contentment often leads to a lack of awareness regarding potential dangers or a failure to make further efforts to improve. I heard God say, failure to put up a fight. That's a lack of action. No worries, be happy. And for some, there's a failure to do what's right. Also, a lack of action. Because you have grown complacent, you don't see the dangers that might be on the way, so you don't prepare. You fail to put prayer in place. This message is a call to action. Prayer is action. God says, put up a fight and fight the good fight of faith. I have this scripture I want to read in your hearing from 1 Corinthians 1:27. But God hath chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise, and God hath chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things that are mighty. And I want to make an announcement to everyone listening. God has already solved the case. All right? We all have what I call spiritual DNA. And I have mentioned this in previous videos in times past. This type of DNA can skillfully be traced with the help of God's Holy Spirit through decoding, understanding, and unraveling hard sentences and crafty speech, like Daniel did. Daniel in the Bible, Daniel in the scriptures. Spiritual DNA can be traced by correctly interpreting dreams and visions, symbols, signs, dream scenes, and crime scenes. What is on the crime scene? Okay? What is in the scene of the dream that God gave you? Spiritual DNA. It also can be traced with what words you were given to work with. What words did the Lord give you to work with? And this, what I'm speaking of, by the gift of God and His Holy Spirit guiding you and teaching you, it is a gift. It is definitely a gift. And someone can, some people can look at things and they can, discern and pull things out and they can see things. But unless this gift is fine-tuned and unless you're very skillful in this gift from the Lord, you can begin to connect the wrong dots. And you can begin to pull in things that don't necessarily belong in part of in the thing that you're trying to solve. Okay, so it does take skill. All right, so all of this, I'm sure, may sound very foolish to the experts out there, or to some of the people with degrees and some of the professionals. This may sound very foolish to you all, but I've seen God do this before, okay? And at some point, I want to share with you all a case wherein God gave a break in the case before there was even a case. All right. So I know this sounds foolish, but God takes the foolish things to confound the wise. All right. That was the scripture that I just read. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get into the first dream. Okay. I'm going to get into the first dream. Let's see what's here. Okay. I don't have the dreams written out. Both dreams were very short, and the first dream was the shortest. I believe this dream was given to me around February 10th of 2026. I don't remember recording the date, but I had a conversation with a family member right after this dream. And so I went back and tried to trace phone records leading back to the day that I had spoken to that family member concerning this dream. Okay, this dream started with me walking up or approaching my Aunt Ruth. Her name is Aunt Ruth. That's what I call her. Now she passed away years ago. Okay, maybe 2017, she passed away. And I'm going back and forth in my mind about whether or not to name this particular aunt, because I want to be sensitive to other family members who may watch my videos. I don't really have any knowledge of them watching my videos, but just in case, I wanted to be sensitive to other family members. But this is the dream that the Lord gave me, and I have no control over what God shows me in the dreams He chooses to give me, because although I was praying for God's intervention with what happened to Miss Nancy Guthrie, I never asked Him to show me anything in a dream. So anyway, the dream started with me approaching and walking toward my Aunt Ruth. Now, I want to state that when she was here on earth and when me and her would talk, I would always say Aunt Ruth. But whenever I would refer to her in conversation, to other people, I would always say, oh, my aunt. I would say the word aunt. But talking to her personally, I would always say, oh, hi, Aunt Ruth this and Aunt Ruth that. Okay, so aunt and aunt. Okay, so I'm slowly walking towards her. I'm in a place, and I don't know what kind of place I'm in. I can't see the room clearly. But I can see my Aunt Ruth directly in front of me as I'm approaching her. I can see what's up close to me, closest to me in this room. And I don't know if this is a house. I don't know what kind of place this is. And it could have been her house. I don't know. So to the right of me, there's another person. As I'm walking toward my aunt, there's another person walking with me. We're both approaching my Aunt Ruth in this dream. And we're kind of like slowly walking up on her. And this is the position she was in, my Aunt Ruth. That's the position. She had her hands up in that manner right there. And I have another picture that I'm going to show you all. Kind of like that. Okay? As I'm slowly walking to her, me and another person, this is her stance. And this is almost exactly how it was right here. Now, this is how the dream started. So she was, my aunt was in a standing position, backing away from me and another person that was to my right as the dream started. And when I'm walking toward her in the dream, it seems like I'm saying, Aunt Ruth, like, oh, Aunt Ruth, or like, there's Aunt Ruth. It's like I was referring to her. And just that's how it was in the dream. Because like I said, when she was here on earth and when we would talk, I would say Aunt Ruth all the time. I would say Aunt Ruth this, Aunt Ruth that. But in the dream, and it seems like, and that part wasn't clear, but I would know as I was approaching her, I was saying something, and I believe I was referring to her as Aunt Ruth as I was approaching her in the dream, me and another person at the same time. Now, kind of behind where my aunt was standing, I couldn't see clearly, kind of like behind her, but it seems like it's possible that there was another person, but I'm not sure. When I woke up, I wasn't sure if there was a third person, and I'm saying me, the person on my right, and then a third person kind of like further off in the distance, a little bit behind my aunt, but to the side of her. I did not see that clearly. I didn't see the whole room. I don't know what place I was in. Okay. And that was the whole dream. Now, wait a minute. That happened once. For some reason, this scene played out twice with me approaching her, me and another person approaching my Aunt Ruth and her backing. She was slowly backing away with her hands raised just like this picture. For some reason, that scene played a second time. I don't know if we stopped and paused, but it was like I began to approach her a second time, me and the person to my right. And she continued to back up with her hands raised. And I don't know, is that called a defensive mode? I'm not sure. With the hands raised up, is that a defensive stance? I meant to look that up. Okay, that was the whole dream. So after that dream, I woke up. I don't have a clue about why am I seeing my Aunt Ruth, who had passed away in 2017. I don't have a clue why I'm seeing her in this dream, and me and another person is approaching her, and she's backing up with her hands raised. So I called a family member, I think the very next day. I may have had this dream on the 9th. I'm not sure if I had it on the 9th or the 10th. I talked with that family member the same day I had it, but I narrowed it down to the 10th of February, 2026. Anyway, talking to this family member, and I briefly mentioned the dream to her because it didn't make any sense. And I was like, I told her that I saw Aunt Ruth in the dream, and she was backing away from me as I was approaching her. And I described how she had her hands up. And at first I thought, maybe she was backing away from me. Maybe she had something and she didn't want me to catch it. You know how people have something and they like, oh, don't hug me. Don't come. But none of that was said in the dream. But that was just my thought process because I was baffled. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know why God gave me this dream. So I didn't really, in the beginning, I didn't really seek God about it, but I kept wondering and pondering it. Okay, I've said in previous videos, I do not always pray and ask God about every single dream that I receive from him as soon as I receive it. I received so many dreams and visions, okay? So that was the totality of the first dream, and I want to make sure I didn't forget anything. Okay, so that was showing, as I said, my Aunt Ruth. I'm going to explain what my Aunt Ruth, how that connects to Nancy Guthrie. Okay. Second dream is also very short. I received the second dream February 26th of 2026, and I did record the date for this one because I took a short note about this dream. This dream started with me coming through the front door of my home slash my apartment slash home. And I say apartment slash home because I kind of live in it's kind of like a duplex apartment, kind of like made like a house in some ways. So I'm coming through the front door. This is how the dream starts, the second dream. When I come through the front door, I go down a hallway before I enter my kitchen. So I'm headed down the hallway to the kitchen, and I see my back door wide open. And so then another family member was coming in the front door right behind me. And as the other family member came through the front door right behind me, I called her and I said, "Come here." I said, "Look at this. We left the back door wide open." I said, "The back door is wide open," or "We left the back door wide open." I think I said, "The back door is wide open." And I said, "We left the back door open." Okay? This was strange because in reality, I never come through my front door. I always exit and enter my back door. I never ever come through my front door when I go someplace. So this was my first clue that this dream was not about me. Okay, so I made a note on when I had this dream. We left the back door open. This was our first time, leaving the door open. Okay, so I'm going to tell you why that statement was made. That statement was actually made in the dream. Okay, so right after I come in through the front door, let me try to tell it in its entirety. I come in through the front door. I go down the hall to the kitchen. I see the back door wide open. I call my other family member. I show her that the back door is open. I tell her the back door is wide open. We left the door open. Immediately after, when I said that, two men appeared standing in the back door, the entrance of the back door in the kitchen. Two men. It's like they just popped in. And the two men were talking to me about me leaving the back door open, as if it was a problem, as if it was a huge problem. Okay. And I don't remember everything that was being said once I woke up. It's like, I'm serious, a whole conversation was going on with these two men about the fact that I had left the back door open, okay, or we had left the back door open, me and this other family member. When I woke up, I couldn't remember every single detail of the conversation, but I knew what some of the conversation was. God allowed me to remember some of the conversation. So as they're talking to me and really making this out of a problem or expressing that it was serious, it was an issue, it was a problem that the back door was left open. This is what I said to the two men. I said, because I wrote this down, I said, this was our first time leaving the door open. I said, we had never left the door open before. Okay? That's what I said. Then, as soon as I said that, and after, whatever they were saying to me, then the two men said, We can see everywhere you go, and we can see everything you do. The two men, after saying that, that was the last thing I remember them saying to me. They left out of the back door, the kitchen. They left back out. And I'm looking at them somehow, like in a dream. It's like I know there are windows in my kitchen, but it's like I'm standing there and I have a vision of them going to their car. Okay. There is a back parking lot if you leave out of my back door. Okay. There's a back parking lot. I see them going to their car. I see two men going to their car, and I see them get to the car. And this is cloudy, but it's like they're getting in the car. I never saw them leave or pull off, but it's like it's kind of cloudy, but I'm seeing this. And here's the thing. The car is parked by the mailbox. Okay. The car that they got in is parked by the mailbox. So in reality, that's how it's set up where I live. Now, I don't know a color of the car, but from the way everything looked, it looks like it would have been a dark color car. You know, sometimes in dreams, some scenes look grayish or dark looking. I didn't see a white car. I didn't see a bright color car. It was almost like something dull, maybe a dark color car, but I can't tell you an exact color. And that stood out to me, that the whole thing stood out to me, but them leaving out and they were parked by the mailbox. And that's where I saw them go get in a car. And that was the end of that dream. But they said, we can see everywhere you go and we can see everything you do. So I want you guys to please, if you have not already watched the video called Surveillance State of America, please watch that, because I purposely released it before this message. Surveillance State of America. Okay. That statement, we can see everywhere you go and we can see everything you do. I don't know. I didn't know what was going on. Okay. With this dream. So again, in real life, I don't use my back door. I don't use my front door. We came in through the front, and these two men popped in when I discovered the back door was wide open, and all of that played out. Okay. When I awoke, let me try to move on through this. When I awoke, I'm trying to make sure I don't forget anything. Okay. But when I awoke, my thoughts were racing. I was thinking, was this some kind of new security that's going to be in this neighborhood? Is something new for this area or this neighborhood getting ready to be implemented with security? I couldn't understand why or how it was their business that I had left my back door open. I couldn't wrap my head around that. What's it to them if I left my back door wide open? And before I forget, something just came to me. When the two men who popped into the kitchen at the back door left, and I'm watching them go to their car parked by the mailbox, here's the other thing. I never was sure, well, if there had been a third person out there at that car. It seems like it could have been a third person out there, but I wasn't sure and I didn't see clearly. But for some reason, that's how it felt, like it could have been a third person. Like two people popped in the kitchen at the back door and was talking to me, but there was another person waiting at the car or in the car. That's how it felt, but I didn't see that clearly. So it reminds me of the first dream when I was approaching my aunt me and another person was approaching my aunt. We were side by side, the person to my right. It reminded me that it was possible that there was a third person in that room that I didn't see clearly, but I wasn't sure. Okay, so moving on. So I couldn't understand how what I did in my house with my back door was their business. And I'm really trying to figure this out. Like, is this some kind of security? Is something new going to be happening out here? It's like I had to answer to them. I had to answer to them for leaving my back door open. And here's the other thing. In my dream, the back door was wide open. I didn't see anything propping it open. This is just my dream. I didn't see anything holding it open, propping it open. I just saw a back door wide open. I didn't know why I had been given these two dreams by the Lord, and I kept thinking about them. I kept pondering and wondering about them. Then I began to wonder if the two dreams were somehow connected to something about Miss Nancy Guthrie, especially the dream about the back door being wide open, because something had already been mentioned about the possibility that a back door was open concerning Nancy Guthrie, but it was not confirmed until Savannah's interview on the Today Show. If y'all remember, that's how it played out. There was stuff had been thrown out there or mentioned, something about a back door. Oh, we heard a back door was open, but it was not confirmed until Savannah spoke. Once Savannah spoke, I believe that's when I started realizing, hey, this sounds familiar. What was in my dream is sounding familiar to what they're saying about the back door being open at Miss Guthrie's house. So one day I remember doing a very quick prayer, and I asked the Lord, what are these dreams about? I believe I heard a whisper of Nancy Guthrie, like Nancy Guthrie. For some reason, I didn't hold on to that. And I think, I'm not sure when that happened. It may have happened after Savannah did her interview. And again, that's when I believe things started really coming together for me. Like, wait a minute, I think this is, connecting back to Nancy Guthrie. So I do believe I heard the Lord whisper to me in prayer, Nancy Guthrie. And like I said, that was a quick prayer. I didn't stay in prayer. I had things to do. The following days, I would have been really busy, just a lot to do, being bombarded. And I continued to ponder these two dreams, and I continued to wonder if it was connected to Miss Guthrie. And then one day, I'm going to show y'all what happened. One day, I took a look at Miss Nancy Guthrie's name. I'm going to tell y'all how I discovered that, yes, in fact, my dream was concerning Miss Guthrie. Okay, so I'm going to share something with y'all real quick about that. I want to show y'all something if I can. I just found this on my phone. I've never used it before, so bear with me with this for a moment. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can make some large letters so you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm going to write out, that might be too big, Nancy, oops, wrong spelling. Okay, so Let me see how I can do this. Make that smaller. Okay, doesn't look like it's getting... So up there, I'm going to put a T. Now that should be... That should be down some, but it's not. Anyway, I'm going to put a T there. Okay, so a little bit further over, I don't want that there. A little bit further over, I'm going to put an R. Okay, so if you look at AN, and if you take the T above and you put the T after the N, that would be ant. If you put the R in Guthrie, or the R over here, that I added up top in front of that G, that would be Ruth, R-U-T-H. Or you can just unscramble U-T-H-R, and that would say Ruth. Okay, do y'all see that? Ant, A-N-T, Ruth. So my aunt's name and how I refer, or what I call her, Aunt Ruth, is encoded in Nancy Guthrie's name. Okay, that's when I knew for sure. And then my mind went back to that day in prayer when I did that quick prayer, and I asked the Lord, what are these dreams about? And I remember there was a whisper in my spirit, Nancy Guthrie. Okay. I want to show y'all one other thing. Now, I don't know why the letters went small. While I'm here. Okay. Okay, let's go back to this. I want to show y'all one more thing. Okay. But as I said, when I place the T there after the N, that's ant. What is another way of reading that? This is an example of decoding. So A-N-T is ant. That's the same as saying A and T. That's the same as saying A and T, which are the initials for Annie and Tommaso. So this is an example of decoding, interpreting what I was given. I was given Aunt Ruth. Okay? Do y'all see that? This is my first time using this, so bear with me, please. Again, okay. All right, so there you have it. A-N-T is the same as A and T. That's what people are, I don't know, y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm not naming anybody that did anything. I'm just telling y'all, I'm showing y'all I was given this in my dream, my aunt's name. Now, if you want to look at Ruth, I don't really have time. I got a lot to cover. Just going to show y'all one other thing with this. Okay, that's decoding Ruth. I'm done with that. Okay, that's it. I'm not going to go any further with this because I don't really have the time to go any further with this. I need to get back. I'm going to exit out of here. Okay, so back to the folder. Okay, back to the folder. So that's just an example. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. I meant to show y'all one more thing. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I got to go back out. Never mind. I'm not going to show y'all anymore. That's okay. I'm out. I'm not going to show anymore. Okay, so now let me get back into the message. Back to what the Lord is saying. No worries. Be happy. The people have grown complacent. The enemy is happy that y'all are complacent, unconcerned, unbothered. All right. Satan's agents are happy that there are no war cries. Okay. Where are the people who are lifting up a war cry before the Lord on behalf of an 84-year-old grandmother brutally taken from her home? Where is the outrage? Where is the war cry for the missing children? There should be sheer outrage concerning the things that's happening in this country and abroad. Okay? There's a lot of talk with no action. There's a lot of complaining, but no action. People are acting and behaving as if to say, no worries, be happy. Because the people have grown complacent, saith the Lord. Concerning Nancy Guthrie, there's a lot of discussions and interviews. There's a lot of talk. And that's okay. I understand that people are trying to keep the story alive. They're trying to keep this in the public eye, to try to get justice so that this isn't forgotten about. It's okay to talk. I understand why all of this is being done, but there's a lot of self-promotion, okay, among some of the people that's talking. A lot of, look what I've done in the past. A lot of chitter-chatter. A lot of, I'm so great, you're so great, but you can't solve this case. There's a lot of theories, okay? This case is plagued with theories. There are also some things being said about this case that makes a lot of sense. I've seen a lot of stuff like, wow, that's pretty good. So here's a side note about Porch Guy. I was listening to someone discussing the Porch Guy on an interview one day, and they talked about how comfortable the Porch Guy appeared to be in his movements, as if he knew where all the cameras were. He seemed to be pretty comfortable, like he wasn't in a rush, and like he knew where all the cameras were. I heard somebody say that who was being interviewed. And at that moment that this person said that, I heard a question spoken almost audibly in my spirit. I heard, who installed the cameras? Okay? Now, I believe that what happened to Nancy Guthrie and who's behind it is only a mystery to some. Okay? It's only a mystery to some. I don't believe it's a mystery to everybody. Okay? Here's what I believe. And this is partly based on the dreams that the Lord gave me. I believe that those who are supposed to know what happened to Miss Guthrie, they already know. I also believe that by now, those who need to know what happened, there's a possibility that they now know as well. This is just what I personally have begun to believe. But God knows. God knows what they know. He knows who knows and who doesn't know. And God knows what they know. He knows who knows, and God knows what they know. And he knows who does not know. God knows all. Okay? There's a lot of fingers being pointed at. This one's to blame. No, that one's to blame. These are also well, there's some false narratives that I've heard that I believe were purposely introduced. I heard one lady put out a narrative that was so idiotic and ridiculous that I thought someone had paid her to say what she had said. Okay? There's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of confusion. And still, no one will lift up a war cry unto God. All right? Don't just... I'm not saying no one has shed a few tears here and there. But don't just, shed a few tears here and there. God is saying, begin to lift up a war cry. And again, this is not just about or starting with Miss Guthrie, but for all the other things that I mentioned. The missing children, the children that have been separated from their parents, and any other injustices that have been and are being done to your family, to people, to society. Some of these horrific, things that are being done, unsolvable crimes that have been done. Begin to lift up a war cry. Cry war, okay? Begin to cry war. War for your loved ones, okay? War for your children. War for your families. War for your mother. The Bible tells us that in the last days, before the Son of Man returns, which is Christ, that it would be like the days of Noah, with violence covering the earth. That does not mean that we're supposed to sit back as if it's not our problem and watch the devil devour people. That does not mean that we're not supposed to lift up a war cry unto our God and fight. The enemy wants to keep y'all fighting over politics when you're supposed to be fighting for souls. Okay? It is not time. It's not time for no worries, be happy. It's time for war. It's time for war. Somebody might be happy, but I'm not. This bee you looking at, that bee might be happy, but I'm not. I'm crying war. Okay? It's a time of war. Lift up a war cry, saith the Lord Most High. What are you waiting for? God says, what are you waiting for? Begin to cry out for your children. Cry out to the Lord, even for your own self. It's time for war. I want to read to you all, and I'm almost at my conclusion. I want to read from 1 Samuel 30, starting with verses 1 through 8. And that says, "And it came to pass when David and his men were come to Ziklag on the third day that the Amalekites had invaded the south and Ziklag and smitten Ziklag and burnt it with fire and had taken the women captives that were therein. They slew not any, either great or small, but carried them away and went on their way. So David and his men came to the city and behold, it was burnt with fire, and their wives and their sons and their daughters were taken captives. Then David and the people that were with him lift up their voice and wept until they had no more power to weep." That's what I mean when I say, don't shed a few tears here and there, but lift up a war cry. Weep before the Lord. Weep unto the Lord until you have no more power to weep. Okay? And David's two wives were taken captives, Ahinoam the Jezreelitess, and Abigail, the wife of Nabal and the Carmelite. And David was greatly distressed, for the people spake of stoning him, because the soul of all the people was grieved. Okay? Weren't your souls grieved when you heard about the brutal abduction of Miss Nancy Guthrie? Okay? Aren't your souls grieved every time you hear about the enemy and his cohorts and his devils and his agents picking off these children, okay, and abducting these children? Aren't your hearts grieved? Isn't your soul grieved? Okay? The soul of the people was grieved, every man for his sons and for his daughters. But David encouraged himself in the Lord his God. And David said to Abiathar the priest, Ahimelech's son, I pray thee, bring me hither the ephod. And Abiathar brought thither the ephod to David. And I forgot to look that up. I forgot. And I meant to research the ephod because I did many years ago. And I think that's connected to war. I'm not sure. I'm sure some of you all out there can look that up. I think the ephod has to do with war. But I'm going to research that tonight, okay? And David inquired. So he put that ephod on and then he went before the Lord. So maybe it has to do with what he wore when he went before the Lord. I'm not sure if it connects to war. And David inquired at the Lord, saying, shall I pursue after this troop? Shall I overtake them? And he answered him. God answered David and said, pursue, for thou shalt surely overtake them and without fail recover all. Okay, I want to also read in your hearing verse 15 through 18 very quickly. I'm almost done. And David said to him, this was an Egyptian that David and his men had found in the field. And David said to him, can you bring me down to this company? And he said, swear unto me by God that thou wilt not kill me nor deliver me into the hands of my master, and I will bring you down to this company. And when he had brought him down, behold, they were spread abroad upon all the earth, eating and drinking and dancing, because of all the great spoil that they had taken out of the land of the Philistines and out of the land of Judah. So the enemy, they went and took the people of God captive, children and wives and spoil. And then they went and threw a party. Ain't that just like the devil and his agents? After they do their dirt, they go someplace and throw a party. And David, they were drinking and dancing, and because of all the great spoil they had taken out of the land of the Philistines and out of the land of Judah, and David smote them from the twilight even until the evening of the next day, and there escaped not a man of them, save 4, I guess that means except 400 young men which rode upon camels and fled. And David recovered all that the Amalekites had carried away, and David rescued his 2 wives. Okay? In my conclusion, I don't know what all has happened to Miss Nancy Guthrie, but we can continue and we will continue to pray for answers and closure and recovery, okay? We can continue to pray. We can continue to cry out to God on the behalf of what happened to this woman, and cry out to God for our lives and the lives of our families and the lives of God's people, okay? Let's lift up a war cry. So I want to say the case is broken. This case is broken. So why aren't you lifting up a cry to the one who has already broke the case? Why not? Why aren't we lifting up a cry to the one who already broke the case? David put on the ephod and he went to his God and he prayed and he encouraged himself in his God. And his God Yahweh is our God. Go to the one who already broke the case. Even if you are an expert in your field of all of this, you can use some help. We can use some help. We know that there's corruption involved, though, right? Come on out of your complacency, says the Lord. It's time for war. Come out of your complacency. I want to say that there is something ritualistic about what happened to Nancy Guthrie. Now, that's what I'm discerning. Whitney Houston and her daughter were both ritualized in the same manner. And I'm referring to the bathtub. I'm not talking about what happened to Miss Guthrie. I mean Whitney and her daughter. The bathtub incident, ritualized. I know that's not the narrative and the story that y'all followed. There were lies and cover-ups, and there was complacency among certain groups of people when that happened with Whitney, and then I think 3 years later, her daughter. No worries, be happy. I did a video 3+ hours long trying to explain what the Lord had shown me about that. Okay? And I don't know if y'all are still able to view that video, but it's still up on my platform. It's called Whitney Houston's Bed, Bath, and Beyond. And God broke that case. Okay? There's clues all in that. Whitney and her daughter didn't get justice yet, but they will. So I pray for justice for Miss Nancy Guthrie as well. If not on this earth, it will be done. It will be done in the courts of heaven. So I'm saying to the family of Miss Nancy Guthrie, I'm saying to Savannah, be encouraged. I'm saying to the family, know that justice will be served in the courts of heaven. The media, the entertainment and sports world, Hollywood and Big Brother. Y'all know who Big Brother. Big Brother, they are deeply and secretly interwoven and intertwined. They are hand in hand. Hand in hand. Or should I say hand in glove? It's a very, very tight circle. No worries, be happy. In my conclusion, to the people of the Most High God and to the remnant, I say, get on your knees and fight. Go to war. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. That's Ephesians 6:12. Saints, please put on the whole armor of God. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. Amen. Be encouraged. Lift up a war cry. Come out of your complacency, saith the Lord. It's time for war.